Hey Spuddies, PotatoMcWhiskey here, and welcome to a September update reaction video. I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on this new update announcement. They have included a huge amount of detail and information in this, and I'm really excited to talk about it, so let's just jump right into it. We're going to listen to it part by part, and then stop when I feel like I have something to say.
Hello Civ fans, we're back again with another update for Civilization 6. As always, we want to give a big thank you to everyone for your valuable feedback you continue to provide on all of our social channels and forums. We've packed a ton of new features, balance tweaks, and fixes into the latest update, but that's not even the best part. We're unleashing an exciting new multiplayer game mode that's unlike anything we've done before. We can't wait to tell you more about it. But for now, let's go over what else is changing in the game. Based on your feedback, one area we wanted to focus on in this update was making coastal cities stronger. For starters, we looked at our great admirals and added a ton of new bonuses. Here's just a few examples. Francis Drake now instantly creates a privateer with 1 promotion level, and military units get a plus 50% reward for plundering sea trade routes.
That's pretty damn cool. We'll talk more in detail about the Great Admiral updates, but I would say overall it looks like what they're doing is they're giving Great Admirals 2 effects. They're allowing them to keep their current effect, and then they're adding a secondary effect on top. I think that's a pretty nice deal because Great Admirals quite often feel very weak and low impact, so it's nice to see some changes coming on that front.
Ferdinand Magellan grants 1 free copy of a luxury resource on a tile to your capital city and grants 300 gold.
Look, I'm not going to turn my nose up at 300 gold. That's a really nice amount of gold in the early game, although I'm not sure. He's Renaissance era, so it's kind of like mid-game, but still 300 gold and a free copy of a luxury resource to your capital city is pretty darn nice.
Horatio Nelson instantly builds a lighthouse and shipyard on a harbor on top of his already existing 50% flanking bonus to all naval units.
This is an Atomic era Great Admiral, so he comes pretty late into the game, but it could be quite useful if you are on one of those naval maps, because sometimes in the naval map you are settling cities quite late, so if you can get that harbour up and then instantly build a lighthouse and a shipyard, that's pretty damn valuable alongside the 50% flanking bonus. So I think that's pretty nice. This is a really good Great General, or Great Admiral rather, sorry. This is a really good Great Admiral. I'm looking forward to using him. I don't think it's going to be a huge game changer, but I think it's one of those Admirals that will feel much nicer to get. I think this is generally a nice direction to take Great Admirals in my opinion.
We've also added more bonuses to the buildings coastal cities benefit from. Mausoleum at Halicarnassus now gives +1 science, +1 faith, and +1 culture on all coast tiles for a city, and great engineers get an additional charge.
I have a question about Mausoleum at Halicarnassus. Like, are you trying to break the game? This looks like one of the most insane wonders even imaginable now. +1 science, +1 faith, and +1 culture on all coast tiles. Now, I'm not sure if when they say coast tiles, do they mean like the actual water tiles, or do they mean like land tiles adjacent to water? I'd have to double check that, but either way, this is like an incredibly powerful bonus on any map with water, and this is now like the tier 1 wonder if you are coastal. This is a wonder to go for always. Now, it does lose the Great Admiral bonus charges, but it still retains that Great Engineer's additional charges, so it's still really good for any sort of scientific victory, because then you can have your Great Engineers do multiple things. It's also really good for basically any victory now, because it gives you science, culture, and faith, which can be translated into useful things in any victory. This is just an incredible wonder now, and honestly, it seems a little bit broken, but I'm really excited to use it, and it's really cool.
Lighthouses give +2 housing if the harbor is adjacent to the city center.
+2 housing if the lighthouse is adjacent to the city center is really powerful. What that does is it actually makes coastal cities on par with river cities in terms of housing, and river coastal cities are just even better now. This is a pretty nice change. Now, it does take quite a bit of investment to get up to that level of being on the same par as these sort of noble river cities, but it is a nice push in the right direction. I feel like I'm very happy about that. I think the lighthouse already gives you +1 housing, so getting 3 total housing from a lighthouse placed adjacent to your harbor, I don't think there's ever going to really be a situation where you want to place your harbor away from your city center these days. I think it's going to be something that you're really looking forward to doing now.
Fisheries now provide 0.5 housing.
Fisheries providing 0.5 housing isn't a huge deal. It is a nice little thing, and I think it will actually significantly improve fisheries, because oftentimes when you're building fisheries, you end up with like a whole bunch of fisheries and a whole bunch of food, but not really a whole lot of housing to make do with that food. Like, there's not much you can do with the fact that you're making like 40 food per turn when you're at like 8 out of 8 housing. The fact that you get a little bit of housing from this means you'll be able to grow your coastal cities bigger. I think this is a huge buff to Liang, and I think Liang on naval maps is going to be far more relevant.
shipyards give +1 production to all unimproved coastal tiles in the city.
Shipyards providing +1 production to all unimproved coastal tiles in the city. Now, I'm curious if that means if you improve a tile, does it lose the +1 production? But this is still another really, really big benefit. Like, this is huge. This is game-changing, in my opinion. Coastal tiles were very, very weak because they just lacked production. And if you can combine this with that city-state, is it Auckland that gives you coastal production? I think it might be Auckland. It's one of the city-states that gives you coastal production. That could be huge. This is so nice. This is going to be a game changer for coastal cities. And I think coastal cities are now, if not on par with like inland cities, they're definitely ahead of them. Like, I think coastal cities are the way you want to go now. This feels like a really good bonus. Shipyards were already really strong, and now they're just stronger.
And finally, putting a campus on a coastline tile next to a reef gives the campus a major adjacency bonus.
Holy crap, a major adjacency bonus from reefs. This is actually going to be solving a pretty big issue that I had in some of my coastal games, is that often if you're playing on an island map, you don't really have very good adjacency for your campuses. Now, you're not always going to get super amounts of value out of this, but being able to get that little bit of extra adjacency to get to that critical +3 adjacency is going to be very nice. It's going to be way easier to reach slightly higher levels of adjacency bonus, and it's really going to change how you want to settle your cities if you're going for any sort of coastal settling strategy.
Our previous update added the 7 Seas map and the Small Continents map. We're happy to say that this update will introduce 6 more maps. The Terra map will include a distant continent populated by city-states, barbarians, and mystery. Each game will be a race to see who can grab the riches of these new worlds first. Primordial maps are a chaotic mixture of the game's most extreme terrain types. Set your disaster meter on 4 and let us know if you make it out alive.
Oh my god, these maps look so cool. And you know what? I'm so happy that they're putting in new maps. I think one of the biggest criticisms that you could have made about Civ 6 at this point was the fact that there was a huge lack of map variety. And now that they're kind of addressing that, it's going to make the game sort of another tier up from where it was. I think this is the right move to go. I think this is the absolute correct thing to do. It was one of the, I would argue, is probably one of the few things that were really left to be criticized about the game, was that there just wasn't really a whole lot of map variety. And this is just addressing that wholesale with, no apologetics. It's a straight up, yep, we didn't have enough maps, so we're putting in new maps. Awesome. And the maps also look really interesting. I really like the idea of the Terra map. The Primordial map sounds kind of crazy to play. I see about 12 active volcanoes on this screen. Maybe more like 10, but still.
Mirror maps feature a randomly generated world where the 4 map quadrants are mirrored to provide exactly balanced starts that are ideal for multiplayer.
That is actually quite huge for multiplayer. Now, I don't play a whole lot of multiplayer, but with the addition of the mirror map, maybe I will. That's going to make things very interesting, because if everyone is sort of starting in the same starting position in terms of resources and that, that's going to make the games feel much more balanced. One of the big problems with playing multiplayer a lot of the time is there's a little bit of imbalance, right? Because someone might start in a coastal tundra behind like a mountain range, and then their game is just screwed from minute 1. And you have to call a restart, and you have to call, well, I can't play this position, and I don't want to play this position. It doesn't look good. So addressing that with a map type is actually a really big deal. And I think that's going to be really healthy for the multiplayer scene. They probably aren't going to use it all the time, because it is a little bit more exciting and a little bit more fun to have sort of asymmetric starts on, say, a Pangea map. But still, this is going to offer people, if they want to have like a raw competition about where we are and how to manage your empire. I think the only downside of this is you're kind of going to know where other people are, which I guess is kind of part of the scouting of Civ 6 in a multiplayer game. But still, this is going to be exciting and fun to play around with, I think.
There are 2 spawn options here as well. Standard, which allows players to spawn in different locations in their respective quadrant, and Mirrored, which forces all players to spawn in the exact same location in their section of the map. To try these new maps, you can simply double-click any of them from our newly organized map selection UI screen.
Wow, that map selection UI screen looks incredible. Kind of reminds me of the Civ 5 map selection screen a little bit, but kind of brought forward into the Civ 6 aesthetic. So that looks really cool, and I like that they have added in the option to have exact mirrored starts or have sort of less mirrored starts. I think that's really good and really healthy for the use of that mirrored map type.
We still have a lot to show you, so please keep watching for more details on the upcoming changes. We'll have the full patch notes available when the update goes live. Make sure you stay tuned to the Civilization social channels, where we'll drop more details about the new multiplayer game mode soon. Also, You might have seen that the Rise and Fall expansion is now available for iOS. We wanted to let you know that we and our friends at Aspyr are working very hard on getting Gathering Storm to the platform and bringing both expansions to the Switch by the end of the year. We appreciate your patience and hope to have more details on this soon. Now, please enjoy the rest of the video. You are the best fans in gaming.
Aw, that's so nice of him to say. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We are the best fans. Sometimes we can be the worst, but I would say we're pretty good. Yeah, that's really cool. The expansion's coming to the Switch, to iOS. That's really exciting. That's really cool. A lot of people have been asking about that. And you know what, man? It's just so nice that they actually listen to that feedback and are bringing them to those platforms. Really, really excited. I think Switch players are going to be super happy about that. I know I'm going to be happy about it because I just got a Switch there like a month ago. So I'm going to be able to play Civ on the move if I feel like it. So here we're looking at some balance updates. Looks like camps now give +2 gold instead of +1, and they also give +2 gold at synthetic materials. This is a nice update to camps. Camps did feel very, very weak a lot of the time. If I had like a deer tile, I would just harvest the deer off and then put a lumber mill down. This is going to maybe make me want to be a little bit more incentivized to place a camp. I don't think it's really quite there yet, but it's an option now that I would consider more seriously. Fishing boats getting +1 production with colonialism is a really big update to fishing boats. I think fishing boats often lacked production unless you got that particular pantheon or you were playing a particular civilization or if you had that particular city-state. So just sprinkling in that little bit of extra production there is quite a nice change that I'm very happy about. It does come quite late into the game, but even so, you know, a city could work, 3 to 4 fishing boat tiles quite easily on a coastal map. So this could be 3 to 4 production in your city on a coastal map, which is nothing to turn your nose up at. Plantations getting +1 food with feudalism is actually a pretty big change too. Oftentimes plantation tiles have jungles on them and I'm kind of scared to chop the jungle tile because then it becomes a 1 food tile if it's on plains. Whereas if I know for a fact that I'm going to get a +2 food tile, I'm going to be feeling a little bit more comfortable about harvesting that jungle or the forest, for example. So that's a pretty cool change. I'm okay with that. Here are a few updates to some of the great generals. Themistocles gives you instantly creates a quadrireme unit. It is a classical era great admiral, and it also gives you 20% production towards ranged naval units. That's a pretty nice great admiral. I think that one would be worthwhile going for and worthwhile getting early in the game because there are boosts that you can get from building quadriremes, if I recall correctly. I think you can get a kill with one and you get a boost in your civic tree. Leif Erikson also comes in the medieval era before you get Caravel, so that's also really nice, and it will give you +1 sight range for all naval units. Not a huge change, but a nice little buff, and I'd be able to explore over ocean tiles is also pretty nice. Regenja Cola comes in the medieval era and gives you +3 combat strength for all naval units in all situations. That's just a nice bonus. That's like having +1 level of diplomatic visibility against an opponent. That's a pretty significant bonus. That's not like an amazing or game-changing bonus, but it is a significant bonus, and it's going to make great admirals feel a little bit better. We've also got Zheng He that grants you a free trade unit and also increases your trade route capacity by +1, and foreign trade routes provide +2 gold to both cities. A little bit of a double-edged sword there, but that's also a really interesting idea. I think that's going to be very interesting to play around with another great admiral. Some more updated great admirals. We've got Qing Shi, who gives you 500 gold on standard speed. It's an industrial area great admiral, so it does come quite late into the game, where 500 gold isn't a huge amount. But you military units getting 60% more rewards for plundering sea trade routes, that's actually pretty good. In my last game playing as Hungary, I often got, 400 to 500 gold from pillaging a trade route after getting a whole bunch of great admirals that boost pillaging of trade routes at the sea. So I'm pretty happy about that. I think that's a really cool change. We've also got Chester Nimitz, which gives you a submarine unit with 1 promotion instantly and grants 1 oil per turn, as well as giving you 20% production towards the naval raider unit group. That's really, really good. I don't know, this is going to be pretty powerful. And I think the really interesting thing here now is it is actually going to be quite a difficult choice about whether or not you want to keep your great admirals around to sort of provide their AoE bonuses, or if you want to expend them to get their instantaneous bonuses. It's going to be a little bit more of an interesting choice. Grace Hopper from the Atomic Era giving you 2 random technologies. Now keep in mind, that's not 2 random technology boosts. That is unlocks 2 random technologies. That is huge. And I think this is going to kind of translate into, alongside the campus changes, with sort of admirals being a little bit more science focused in a way, because you could, if you get the right technologies at the right time here, this could be a significant change to your gameplay. Looks like rock bands have got some updates too. Indie bands now lose 40 loyalty instead of 50. I think that's a really healthy change. Indie bands was felt a little bit too strong, that you could get 2 of them and instantly wipe out a city. Now you're going to need 3 of them, which is still, you know, quite easy to do, but it's that little bit harder. It's just a small little shift in the right direction that makes a significant change. So I like that. They also changed album cover art, which I'm a little bit sad about because it was my favorite one, but it was my favorite one because it was the best. So it definitely deserved to be nerfed, and it's a good thing that they did nerf it, and hopefully they will also boost some of the other promotions. They also have now music festivals allow you to perform on natural wonders as well as natural parks. I think that's or national parks. That's a nice change too. Often the AI doesn't really end up with a whole lot of national parks, so being able to use natural wonders to your advantage is going to make that promotion a little bit more attractive, which I'm in favor of. Popstar gives you 25% of the tourism generated as gold. It was previously 50%, so that's a little bit of a nerf. I think that's okay too. Popstar was pretty strong. I would say it was one of the ones that I would consider picking over a lot of other ones. This is a nice boost. And Space Rock now performs at space rate, give you 500 tourism. University increased this to 1000, and previously it was only spaceports, so that's actually really, really nice. This makes it much more viable to use Space Rock against someone going for a scientific victory, so I think that's a positive change. Surf bans also are getting some changes. Instead of just being seaside resorts and you can now perform them at harbours, and shipyards increase the tourism to 1,000. Previously, it was only seaside resorts, so this is a really, really nice change. I think it's going to really help things out. Oftentimes, the AI, again, doesn't really have a whole lot of seaside resorts. They would occasionally have a few sprinkled around, but this is just going to make this promotion that much better and much more attractive, and it's good to have a diversity of options when you're looking at how to approach a tourism victory in the late game. Looks like corporate libertarianism has some extra military policy slots, as does synthetic technocracy getting an extra economic policy slot, and digital democracy is also getting an extra diplomatic policy slot. This is just nice. I often felt like the late game governments, you didn't really get a whole lot out of switching to them from, say, democracy, and getting that extra policy slot might be just enough of a push to kind of make that choice a little bit more acceptable or optimal. The veterancy policy now includes harbours and its buildings. That's a big deal. Previously, there wasn't really a card to boost production towards harbour districts. Now, this is going to be a big deal because oftentimes, if you're settling coastally, you're kind of lacking production anyway. And in order to get that production, housing and growth and all those things, to get that production, you needed to build harbour buildings, and you needed to build the lighthouse and the shipyard and all these things. Now, with the veterancy card, that's going to be so much easier because you're getting a 30% production boost. This is a big deal. This is a big change. And I think naval gameplay has been significantly improved by this one change alone. When you consider all of the other changes on top of it, naval gameplay might just be the optimal way to play if you can do it. I've also got a really cool looking tilted axis map where it looks like the the center of the map is like the North Pole, and everything radiating outwards is sort of the rest of the world. Very, very cool. We've also got the splintered fractal map, which looks fairly interesting. A lot of huge mountain ranges and stuff like that. And then we've got the continents and islands map. Oh my god, please, yes, thank goodness for that. My biggest complaint about continents maps is that there were no islands to settle. You would often just explore this vast, empty ocean with nothing in it. Adding just a sprinkling of islands here and there just adds so much to it. And I think it's actually going to make the Maori so much more interesting to play. I was planning on playing as the Maori soon, but I might wait until there's a continents and islands map out until I do that. Single player jersey support, so you can pick your own colors, and looks like some general updates to the UI, which is pretty damn nice. World Builder has got a few updates. That's pretty cool too. I wouldn't say this is something that is super important to me, but a nice little change nonetheless. Oh, very cool. Hand-drawn rivers can now flood. That is a very nice update to the World Builder. Oh, that's also really cool. Different continents have a different color when in the continent selector mode. So let me just say here, right? Thank you so much to the Civilization developers. You guys have done a great job listening to community feedback, not only on doing the whole expansions, bringing the expansions to the Switch and iOS, but also on generally updating the game. I don't think I see a single change in here where I'm like, this is actually bad for the game. I think every single change so far has been really good for the game. And that just really goes to show not only how hardworking and dedicated the developers at Firaxis are, but really really how good they are at taking that feedback and translating it into a effective sort of improvement to the game. And, you know, oftentimes you like when you're running a big studio like this, you get a lot of feedback, and it can be quite difficult to sort of parse all that information and make it into a change that is actually like almost objectively good for the game. And I think every single change in here is objectively good for the game, and I'm really excited to play with this update. Oh, and one last thing. There's a couple of interesting things in the background here. There is a mask, which kind of reminds me of Venice. Could this perhaps be a hint towards a Venetian civilization or an Italian civilization? There's also the skull. And I don't think these set designs are an accident. So the skull could perhaps be something related to the plague mechanic or some sort of health mechanic. That would be extremely interesting. Or it could be just all kind of stuff just sprinkled in to confuse us. I can see there's a boat behind him. There seems to be something here as well, but I can't quite see what it is. And there's also a barbarian unit here. So I think this might be hinting towards some sort of new, you know, maybe barbarian mechanics, maybe a new Venice or Italy civ, and maybe something to do with health and disease. I don't know, but that's just speculation. We have seen in the past that these set designs are not an accident. That's it from me. Overall, I'm really excited. I can't wait to play this. I love you all very much. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.